Hello everyone. Today we have an architect, the person who we worked together many years. We have a lot of successful projects. To be honest, never have any fail or refusal, which one is really good. This is a good sign. And we would like to explain everyone why we need architect, why it's necessary to do everything, follow the instruction instead of building yourself wherever you want to build and then have a trouble and pay lots of fee to the council, like penalties. Yeah, so this is a miss. Is our architect, he's like friend of ours. And yeah, can you introduce yourself and tell us
hi there, thanks for having me. First of all, thank you for having me, I appreciate it. So my name's Miz, obviously Design Board Architectural Services. So we mainly do planning permission for extensions, mainly for residential. So the reason why we need planning permission is when you do an extension which is bigger than normal. So most houses, you can have 3 meter single story extension, you don't need permission. But you do need drawings for building control and for the structural engineer. And sometimes you need it for Thames Water or Anglian Water. There's many different types of water companies out there. So that's one of the reasons is you need planning, is because the drawings actually explain what you're doing. So for example, if you want to have a single story extension, it could be 4 meters, 5 meters. So this is what we show. We'll have to show everything on the drawing. So full floor plans, elevations, sections, dimensions. We give that to the council. They approve it. If they, as long as it's approved, yep, carry on with the works. But without planning permission, you can't start works. But it depends on the type of job as well. So it depends what you're looking to do. So a single story, you don't need permission for 3 meters, but anything more, you do need it. If you want to do a 2-story extension, so if you want to make another bedroom upstairs, you do need permission, definitely. Garage conversions, you don't need permission most of the time, but sometimes you do, but it's best to check. That's why we always say to people, call us, just ask us the question. If you need it, we'll apply. If you don't need it, carry on. But you will need drawings for the builders. Some people try and do construction without building drawings. It's a risk, it can be done, but now the way things are going, the council, building control, they ask for an architect's name or a company's name that makes sure that there is drawings. So you do, most of the time, it's better to get advised if you need planning or not, but sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Majority of cases you do need planning. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why we need architect, for have a planning. Can you maybe tell us from your experience, let's say people build it up something without permission and how they end up with everything? I mean, how everything is like, what was outcome from it? So let's say they build it up something and neighbor not happy with it,
Okay.
and they reporting them or something. So
Okay, so let's say you've done an extension and you haven't got planning permission. The first step is the council will probably send you a letter to say that you've built something without permission, you need to apply. They give you an option either to apply or to demolish. Obviously to demolish is very expensive, so I'd recommend you should always apply. So when it comes to applications, we will come out, do the measurements, do the survey, do the drawings, submit. Now, most of the time they will give it to you, but it's very risky, so it's a good idea not to just go ahead and build wherever you want to build. It's better to seek advice to see what can you build and what you can't build. But let's say you've built it already. So most of the time the things that the council will consider is, does your extension impact the neighbour? If it impacts the neighbour, how bad is the impact? If it looks like it's made the neighbour's house dark, then you've got a problem. So they might ask you to either make it smaller or reduce the height. There's many angles that they can go on, but it's not worth the risk. So let's say now we've applied, they don't like it, it gets refused. You've got a chance to appeal. Now the planning application usually takes 8 to 10 weeks. If it fails, it could, you're looking at making an appeal. Now the appeal process can take up to 6 months. So let's just say nobody likes this application, an appeal, it fails, then there's a high chance it's going to have to be demolished or removed to quite a small thing. But again, it's too expensive to take a risk. It's better always get advice, do it properly, because if it goes wrong, we've had, let's say in the last 10 years, we've probably had 3 jobs at a risk of demolition. However, if you do it properly, it's a low risk. So you can do, for example, a 3 meter extension on normal semi-detached and terraced houses without permission, as long as you're not in a conservation area and as long as your property is not listed. You can't do it on new build houses. New build houses have different laws. So we always say anything that's built after 1990 get advice. Anything built before 1990, you can, 3 meters is usually allowed. If you have a detached house, you can do 4 meters. However, there are new laws out there now that it's been around for a while, where you can now do on a semi-detached house and terraced house up to 6 meters, single story. But you do have to apply. As long as the neighbor doesn't object, you'll get permission. For detached houses, you can go up to 8 meters. So with 8 meters, which is quite big, as long as the neighbors don't complain, you'll get the permission. But you have to make sure you're not in a conservation area and it's not listed. So for those who don't know what them two are, listed building is basically, which is an important building that's been assigned by the UK that cannot be touched. These are normally like churches, schools, very old buildings. They come in 2 types, grade 1 listing, grade 2. These are the buildings you can't touch. You can apply for things, but they're very difficult. Conservation area is an area which is deemed important. So there are parts of London, for example, where you might have a special area which is important, like churches, or you might have something which is an area which is good for some sort of shoemaking or something. Whoever lives in a conservation area normally knows. So they're normally nice areas. And these areas you can't just go ahead and build. You have to get permission. There's no question about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it basically.
But if it's a conservation area and if you apply, what chance to be accepted? I mean, there's also some chance for refusal, because
there's always a chance for refusal. It depends really on the design. Most people, such as myself, for example, we know what is allowed, what's not allowed. If, for example, you say you want something too big and ugly, for example, they're never going to give it. But whoever's drawing this for you will know what's right and what's wrong. So different areas have different policies. So Redbridge has one area, Newham has different. Everybody has different rules. My advice is always but conservation areas are very unique. They're very small areas. Majority of people don't live in conservation areas, and if you do live in it, it's not like it's a no, you can't. It just means you have to make sure you meet all the criteria, such as nice brickwork, nice roofing. It has to be, the design has to be the same, but it could also mean your extension might be smaller than normal. So yeah, it's best to always get advice. But conservation areas, there's no problems with it. It's just a bit more policies. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, but did you have in your experience, especially like demolition case, like where council is forcing you to demolish? Because even let's say, okay, you built it up without permission.
Yeah.
But what about building control?
Okay, so we've had a case something similar where a builder went ahead and built a small kitchen extension. They didn't apply for planning and they didn't do building regs. They called us out because the neighbour complained that the wall was moving with the wind, which is very dangerous. So when we witnessed that, we knew straight away the structure was wrong. So what happens straight away is building control kicks in and they will automatically say demolish. Now, with that one, they have a time, they give you a time to demolish. If it's dangerous, they will ask you, they will demolish it themselves. And the fine that they give you, they will get their own builders, but then they will put a charge on the mortgage. Most houses are mortgage. So they will go to the lender and say, this person's done an extension which is illegal. We've paid £50,000 to demolish it, and the charge will be on the mortgage, which then gets back onto you. So obviously that's a very dangerous route. You shouldn't go down that path because, mortgage rates being high and everything, it's not a good time to do it. You shouldn't do that stuff anyway. But the demolition, if they'll ask you to demolish, but to demolish, obviously that means it's going to cost you. To build it up is a cost, to demolish is a cost, and then you'll have to rebuild again. So the client that I'm talking about that did that, he did an extension for 20,000. He got caught, the building was moving, so then he had to hire the architect, inspectors, engineers. That probably cost him another £2,000 to £3,000, and then at the end he had to demolish, which is another probably 10. Then he had to rebuild it again, which cost him I think 30. So it nearly cost him 50 to 60 grand for something that was only 30 grand, and that's all because he didn't take the right routes. There are many cases like that, but most of the time, most of our clients are quite good. They always ring us, they'll call us, we'll talk to them. It's better to talk. Talking sometimes helps. Whether you do it or don't do it, that's a different matter. But I would avoid trying to build things where it has to be demolished. But it's very rare.
Yeah, but in the meantime, from my experience, I had experience like people love the house, they want to buy it, and in the process of buying, they have a mortgage offer, everything is fine. But when it's come to the legal side, like to the solicitor, they just find out they have extension built without permission, without document, yeah, and they inform the bank, where the bank suspend a offer, because it's illegal.
That's right.
So this is I try to explain everyone, you need to go right way and have a permission first and then build, because in the future when you want to sell your house or whatever you want to do, you will be in a trouble, because if you try to sell and someone's find out that you don't have the right documents, it means that will be refused from the bank or solicitor. So better to go right way.
That also includes not planning as well, building regs and engineer. So we have a lot of cases, we get a lot of calls for this, which is where the buyers, they have a house, they broke the chimney. They didn't tell anybody, which is fine, it happens, a lot of people do it, but they didn't get an engineer. But when it goes to selling, the mortgage company sends out the surveyors, they see the chimney's broken, they say, where's the documentation? There is no documentation, so that's when it delays. So then you get an engineer, he comes out, takes time, this could have been, yeah, that's right, yeah, minimum you're looking at £450 to £1,000. And time is the biggest delay, because the person buying could walk away.
Yeah.
So it's not worth the risk. That's why it's any construction work in a house, always seek advice. Always go to an architect or an engineer, or talk to somebody. Never just go ahead and just do it, because builders, it's good. Builders want work; they should do the work. But builders also don't know the laws. There's always things behind everything. So behind the architect there's an engineer, behind the engineer there's so many people. So it's always best to seek advice, but also at the same time, if the bank refuses, if they don't accept the chimney, they might say, like the engineer might say, this is wrong, you'll have to break it again and do it. So it's very costly. So it's better to always get everything in order, do it from the beginning, because the day you want to sell, you might not have time to look around for people, and then you might lose the sale.
Yeah, this is actually, I have one example for that, because my friend, she's selling the property, she's like agent, just estate agent, and she's selling the property, and when it's come up for the mortgage offer, they send, like you said, they send a surveyor, and they find out the chimney was knocked without documents. And the sale was just failed, because they refused to buy, bank refused to give them mortgage, of course, and they just waste time and money. Then they try to find structural engineer and building control, they need everything to be signed off. And another case also I've got, friend of mine, she also find the property, she was really in love with the property and stuff, and then they have an extension, they have only 3 meters, which one is allowed, but they don't have any building reg met. So when it's come up for the legal side, and when the solicitors pick it up, she said, like, we can, if you made for us some discount, we can buy indemnity insurance for this, or make legal documents. People sometimes too much squeeze themselves, that's right. And they say, no, we do building control certificate, which will take them 4.5 months.
That's right.
They haven't had this certificate. What the building control tell them when they came, this is how I'm understand from her, what she explained to me. So what they done like conservatory, conservatory. So what they done, they put a door, they remove how it's called, radiator. And this is how they
left it as storage.
Yeah,
there are ways to do things, but it could devalue the house. So if you're trying to sell a house, pretend for 300,000, and you've done an extension, and you've probably spent 20 grand, but you've increased the value by 50, so you're happy, you're thinking, I've made profit. But when it comes to selling it, when there's no documentations for this, you've actually devalued, because the agent will say, hang on a minute, there's no planning, there's no building regs, there's no engineer, this isn't an extension, this is just something. We'll give you indemnity insurance, which is cheap, but you've now dropped your house from 300 to 250. So was it worth it? Not really. So it's better to do this properly.
And also, like you mentioned about listed property, like you said, it's have a 2 grade. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so listed buildings comes in 2 types of listed buildings. There's grade 1 listing and grade 2 listing. Grade 1 basically means you cannot touch it in any form, outside and inside. And these, majority of grade 1 listed buildings, these are like castles, very historical old buildings. Majority, these are the buildings you can't even purchase. And if you did purchase them, you can't do anything with them. Literally, you can't even change what you're doing internally. Grade 2, on the other hand, you can, but you have to seek permission. And not only do you have to seek permission, there's for example, if you want to change the windows, you have to get special permission. Grade 2 listed buildings, they're quite common. You'll see them everywhere. Most old schools are grade 2 listed. Churches, a majority are grade 2 listed. In towns, high streets, especially if you go into London, majority of the in Baker Street, all these kind of properties, these are grade 2 listed because they're quite nice, old. Listed buildings are very unique. They are good to purchase as well because they're a bit cheaper because they're very difficult. So you can't insulate them, for example. Inside you can, but outside you can't. You can't change the windows, so it's a bit cold. Yeah, so that's why grade 2, but they're good properties. If you can get hold of one and you're willing to spend money, they're very good things to turn around. Most houses in the UK, they're not listed, but the unique old buildings are.
And also, sometimes I receive some phone calls from the people and they said, we would like to buy land, we would like to build a house. I say, okay. Tell us about the land, because I know they have a green belt zone, grey belt zone, so it's the different. Can you explain a little bit about this? They came from Ukraine mostly, and in Ukraine you can buy wherever and build wherever, Of course you need some documentation, but it come up easy. Not like here.
Yeah, with UK, there's a lot of different types of land. Like you said, there's green belt, brown belt. There's so many types as well. That some land they're designated. Designated means this land has particular use. So majority of the land in the UK is farm. Farmland you can't do much with. It has to be agricultural. So then there's also brown. Now these are the good ones where you can do developments, but again, development is quite restricted. For example, you could have a problem such as highways. You might have a good piece of land, but you might not be able to get to the land. Then you've got green belt land, which is forests and stuff, which you can't touch. So the best places to buy plots of land to develop are usually if you can find land within a town or a city. City is impossible because it's already saturated. It's pretty much over. But if you go to, for example, out of London, there's so many towns out there. Towns usually have plots of land which you can buy, but try and look for land which is surrounded by properties and where there's a road connecting to it. But it can't be like a little track. When I say track, with like tractors, it must be a road where 2 cars can go up and down. They're the best plots to look for. Also, you have to consider the area as well. So, for example, you can't find a piece of land in an industrial estate. You can't build a house in an industrial estate. You have to stay away from that. So you should try and look for residential areas. And then if you're going to build a house, think about what's surrounding the properties. If it looks like that there's, small shops and small houses, then you will have to make the same thing. So if you're thinking of building a nice, big, detached house in an area where there's lots of small houses, they will never give it to you. So always look at the surrounding area as well. But plots of land, they're hard to come by nowadays because it's getting harder because everybody's doing that, and there's a lot of restrictions. So the main things we look at is 1, what's it surrounded by? 2, highways. Is there any impact by bringing in cars? And if you're going to build a house, remember, for example, a 2-bedroom house requires minimum 2.5/3 cars. So you need to have space for cars. Not just parking, but garages as well. And now they're also pushing for cycle and electrical parking. There's so many policies, and also you restrict on height as well. New houses as well, which is really good. They want it to be good on energy. So when we do build these houses, design these houses, we make them very efficient. That's what the government wants now. So looking at houses, you have to make sure that wherever you're looking at, the house type fits with the area. So like I said, there's highways. There's parking mainly, and the design of the house. So you can't build a nice modern house. I mean, everybody wants a modern house, but the problem is if your surrounding houses are old traditional houses, then the design has to be traditional.
And also another thing, like people calling also and said, I will buy farm.
Yes.
I will demolish everything and I will build a house. I say, no, you're not going to do that because we can't.
You can't do it. It's a good idea. It sounds nice, but you can't. And even if you did, it's most likely going to get demolished. And so it's better to, there are, for example, like how we do things, we have a planning consultant that works with us. So he would look at all the policies, make sure it's safe first.
Martin, you mean?
Yeah, Martin, from Just Planning. So he's really good. He will look at all the policies. He's an ex-planning officer, so he knows the rules and regulations. He would then check, make sure everything's okay, and then he will come to me. I'll do the design, everything, the whole survey and everything. After that, Once we've got the permission, we'll then take over with the building control. It's pretty easy after somebody like me is involved. It's trying to get the right plot, which is difficult. But again, it's better to always call. Just if you find a plot of land, do a bit of your own research, and then see if it's worthwhile. But yeah, you can't just buy a plot of a farm and then demolish. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, and also another question, which one really, really often I receive, what houses we have to buy to convert into 2 flats? I mean, what are the minimum requirements for this?
Okay, that's a good question. So obviously, depending on the area as well. So the best type of houses to buy to convert into flats are usually detached houses and semi-detached houses. These are the 2 best ones. Terraced houses you can buy to turn into flats, but again, you have to check the area which you're in. There are a lot of areas in London, for example, restrict houses being turned into flats. So such as if you look at Newham Council are against houses being turned into flats because Newham, they don't have enough homes for families, apparently, according to the council. So for that reason, as soon as an application goes in for a house to a flat in Newham, they reject it. They don't even give you the chance. So you need to check out the area that you're in. So the best types, though, are detached and semis. Terraced are good as well, but the terraced houses have to be very big. Now, in terms of sizes, what do you need? A minimum for a 1-bedroom flat is 37 to 39 square meters. But you also need to think about other things such as cycle storage, bin storage, noise, for example. Also the flats, does the area have capacity for flats? You can't bring in, for example, where there's already people are struggling on the street for parking, you can't suddenly bring more families in. But for example, let's say you had a semi-detached house. Normally semi-detached houses come with parking, so that's good. So then you can at least say, look, a 3-bedroom house has space for 2 cars, but if we're going to make it into flats, we can make it into 1 bedroom, so therefore you only need 2. But to look at stuff like this, you need to look at your area. Now in London, for example, there's something called a PTAL score. You can Google this, you'll find it on the internet. All you have to do is, if you have a property, just type in PTL on Google, put your postcode, and it'll tell you how good the area is in for transport. If it's got good transportation, which means train station, a bus service, everything's nearby, which is a high rating, the council will look at it and say, actually, we don't need parking for this flats. There's plenty here, and they'll give it to you. But again, you'd have to do a bit of your own research, because if, for example, the PTAL score is very bad and you don't have a driveway, then you'll never get a flat. But again, that's why we always ask people, just call, just talk to somebody, and eventually you'll find out if you've got a good chance. But again, the best type of houses are semis and detached. They're the best ones. And if you're going to go for terraced houses, make sure that you're in the town centre where there are other flats. Usually that's a good sign. If you find a house on a terrace street where there's already 3 flats, then you got a good chance as well. If you go to a street where there's no flats, then the chance is slim. But I'd recommend always looking at semis and detached. And on top of that, sometimes some semi-detached houses might be too small. You can always do an extension. So, for example, like yourself, you've done a loft, you've done extension, you've made the house bigger, and then
we've done maximum what we can in this
exactly.
class.
But your house has got the capacity for driveway for 4 cars. You've got a good plot. You've got space, for example, for 2 flats, quite easy. So your chance is really high. But that's
so
only
we can
because
convert my property into 2 flats.
there's a good chance. Yeah, there's a good chance.
Good.
Yeah. That's it, yeah.
So this is our next step with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the fee from the council. Why they charge the fee? How much they maybe, if you know the charge and stuff.
Yeah. So charges. Okay. So charges range from £315 all the way up to £673. But there's different types of applications. So the cheapest application is called prior notification. This is for houses that want to do single-story extensions, more than 3 meters. These ones, I think this one is £330 roughly. That's the cheapest one. The next one up is £613, but that applies to all houses, any type of extension, 2-story, single-story side wraparound. Then comes the other types of application, which is change of use. So you were talking about flats. Flats are usually about £673. The price keeps changing. Every April, the government changes, plus most of the applications are made through the planning portal. They charge admin fees. So you're looking at £670 to £700. So if you want to, for example, change a house to 2 flats, it's only £673 because you're technically adding 1 new dwelling. But if you're changing a house to 3 flats, then you pay for 2 because there's already 1 there. Then there's different types of applications such as certificate of lawfulness. That's very common. A lot of people do that. That's where you don't need planning permission, but you get the permission from the council. Now, if you apply to the, let's say you've got a garage and you want to make it into a room. Many people do that. You've got quite a few clients that do that. For example, if they apply to the council beforehand, it's only £315 or something like that, 350. But if they want to build it and then apply, then it's double fee, 613. So we always tell people, apply beforehand. It's safer. But let's say you haven't got time because your builder wants to do it. Fine, you can always do it afterwards, because sometimes planning is very important. Like you said, with the selling of properties, some banking mortgages, they want planning and building regs, even if planning is not required. With flats, you need it all the time. You cannot do flat conversions without planning. You must get planning permission. And that's a very dangerous one. If you don't get planning, there's fines associated with flats because it's too risky, because you're putting in families into new plots. But again, the fees do range up. And the more flats you do, the more. New build houses, for example, they're also 673, roughly £700. But with new builds, there's more required. So you might have to do reports such as wildlife reports, highway reports. I mean, average, I always say to people, anything like a big project, you should always assume £1,000 to £1,500 per report. But council fees, obviously, it depends on what type of application. But like I said, it's better for them to contact yourself. You could tell people what they are.
Yeah. On last report, we pay some biological stuff. You know, the grace one. So we paid roughly 1,600 per emergency.
That's right.
It wasn't emergency because they take them ages to finish. But anyway, we paid it.
Yeah, this is it. So with big projects, prices can spiral. But obviously, big projects means big money, means big risk, so it's worth it. With majority of people who are traditional family homes, it doesn't have to be like that. But again, but you're looking at £315 up to £673 for normal applications for houses, family homes. Anything bigger like commercial, that's when it becomes a bit different. So if you're looking at, for example, we've done a storage building on the outskirts of London. That was, I think, I can't remember. I think it was something like 6,000 square feet. It was a huge building. That one, they work it out on the area. So I think the application fee for that was about £3,500. But again, different projects have different things. We've just completed in Peterborough, which I've done. We converted office into flats, 114 flats. This one, for example, I think that fee was quite cheap because we did it back in the days when the application fees were cheap. But again, office to flats, this is very common right now. It's very hard to find, but if you do find them, offices are the best one to convert into flats because you only need 4 documents, drawings, which we do. You need a highways report, which is very easy, sound report, which again, we've got a sound technician, and something called land contamination report, which is nothing. They're about £400. These are very good because if you can give all these documents, you can pretty much get the planning permission. But the hard bit is to find offices, and it cannot be an office that you've made. So you can't make your house into an office and then say it's a flat. It must always be an office from the beginning.
Use as the offices. Yeah, I think I see, like, because like not lots of people now, like offices is not really really important now because most of the people working from home.
Correct,
even like me, I'm also like sitting here working from home, so I don't need office.
That's right,
And also it's really now it's really like new program. Let's say you can like order the office for one day.
That's right. Yeah.
And you can sit wherever, like in central London today, tomorrow, wherever you want to be. So and I saw a lot where they now convert. So this was interesting even for myself. How in the meantime, it's really hard to find.
Yeah, I always say to everybody, to clients, if you find something, don't delay, because the government changes their policies every 6 months to a year. So when this policy came out, office to flats, originally it was £60 for as many flats as you wanted to do. So in Birmingham, I did it's called a Hawthorne House. I think on that one we paid £80 and we produced 112 flats, and that was just one fee, and we made that many flats. That same client then went on to buy another property, and by then the fees kept changing because now for any flats, office to flats is 300 and something pound per flat. So there's always the council finds ways to make money off the regular person.
Course.
So that's why I always say to people, if you find something, do it. Don't delay, because next year the fees won't be the same. So only recently the council doubled their fees. So I was saying about £615. Only 9 months ago that was £320. So I always say to people, if you have something, get the permission, because the permission lasts you for 3 years. And some of the other types of permission that I was saying about the big house extensions, these are lifetime. So if you have a semi-detached or a terraced or a detached, you can do 6 and 8 meters. And if you get the permission, but this is life, so you don't have to worry. But for example, if you want to do two-story,
you don't have a restriction, like if you say you have it's like 6 meter extension, you don't have to start it in 3 years. Like,
no, you can do it in 10 years' time. You can do it whenever you want to do it. But it's better to get the permission.
Yeah.
Because next year they might change the policy. They might even get rid of it. Because when this policy first started 9 years ago, they only gave it for 3, so everybody went crazy. And because they thought they were going to cancel it, then the government said no, we'll give you another 3 years. And then once it came in, they were like, you know what, we like this, but we're going to charge. But they could next year, you never know. The government keeps changing its policies. They could get rid of it if they wanted to. But because nobody knows with certainty which way everything is going nowadays, I always say to people, if you've got something, do it. Even if you don't build it, get the permission, because then at least you've got some time, you know, and then we could always renew. That's the good thing about permission. You can always renew it. So every 3 years, just before it expires, call me, you know, we'll reapply and get it another 3 years. I've got one customer who's been resubmitting one application for, I think now 9 years now. He hasn't got the money to do it, but you know what? He's got the permission. On that same street, 6 houses away, somebody applied to do the same thing that I designed. It failed. Because that design back then was good. Now it doesn't work with today's laws. But because I've got the permission, they can't touch us. So for that reason, they're giving us. So that's why I always say to people, get the permission and renew. Even if you can't afford to build it, get the permission.
Just do it, yeah. Let's say you get the permission. So when you get, like, say I get the permission in 2020.
Yes.
And I would like to build in 2026.
Oh, it's expired.
We redo it.
Yep.
We have it, but we need to meet new regulation, isn't it?
That's right,
so I have to build by new regulation.
Correct. Yeah.
So only from the time you give a notice to the council.
Yes.
Then you use that regulation where you give notice, isn't it? Or you
so that's kind of changed now. So what's happening is, pretend you got permission in 2018 and you've got permission continuing, but you put the building regulation application in. As long as you put it, whatever year that you put the regulation in, you will work to that regs, but you must have started enough work. So back in the days, people used to just dig the foundation and said, that's it, we're done. The council doesn't accept that anymore. So you have to have built a little bit at least. So I always recommend to people, at least build up, 4 or 5 bricks at least. But then just leave it and then come back to it. But again, it's very risky because the law keeps changing. So this law that I'm talking about, where they're saying they want sufficient work, that changed 3 years ago. Back in the days, people used to just pour the foundation and 10 years later they used to start. It was okay. But the problem right now is building control is getting very difficult for them to do their jobs now. There's a lot of companies going bust, private building control. So PwC went bust. Ascent Building Control just went bust a week ago. So
really?
Yeah. So we're getting calls because because they've gone bust, now the work has to go back to the council and all the inspections have to begin again. So for that reason, I think there is some changes coming from building regulation. So they will make things harder. So I would say to people, if you've got permission, that's the important bit, is getting the permission. But if you've started the works, not a problem, as long as you've started enough. So I've got a property in Hamlet Road, not far from here, I can't remember the area name, where we built a brand new house, 6-bedroom house. This project has been going on for, I think now 12 years. And yeah, but because they started it, it was okay. That's why they could keep, he's doing it very, very slowly. But again, it's okay because he started most of the work. But if he, for example, just dug the foundation and left it, it's highly unlikely the council will let you carry on with the works. So it's better to start some works. Now, there is another downside. The rules keep changing for wall thicknesses every 3 to 5 years. So you might have started with 30 centimeters, like, back in the
from the
that's right,
bungalow.
Yeah. The bungalow that we did was 30
centimeters. And here we have like
50
50 or something.
That's right, it's added. So I think every 5 years they keep making the walls thicker. So new houses, they're now 450 thick. So, but let's say you got permission this year and I've drawn the wall 450. If you decide to just brick up a little bit extra and then build it in 10 years time, if the council says no to you, like, no, we don't accept 450, now it's 500, that's made your house smaller. So we always recommend to people, don't delay too much in terms of, if you've started the works, try and do as much as you can and then stop. But don't just do a little bit and then it's not a good idea, because obviously times keep changing. Yeah.
And also another question, because like some of the people who came, especially from Ukraine, they like just we will buy a new build house, we will add some extension and stuff like that. I say, no, you wouldn't be able to add anything on a new build, because like a developer, let's say, we build up, yeah?
That's right.
So that houses with three houses, that project, yeah? So it also was asking, maybe we can add some loft, maybe we can add some extension. I say, no, we can't, because it's restriction, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can't.
So majority of houses built after 2000, especially after 2010, definitely, they come with restrictions. So if you do buy a new house, your solicitor should tell you, look, there are some restrictions. So majority, like Barrett Homes, these new houses, they always say, look, when you buy it from us, which is brand new, we will give you 10 years warranty, which is really good, as long as they honor it. But they will also give you restrictions saying, as soon as you touch this, the warranty is void. And if you do touch it, you need to get permission from the council and from us. So there have been cases, none of our customers, but we've heard cases where the customer went and got permission from the council, they built it, and then they didn't get permission from the developer. And this nullifies the contract, because there's a contract between the buyer and the developer. So if they want, they can take it back. So we've heard of cases where people have been in trouble, but you just have to Google in London. There's many cases where you own a flat. So you can have an owner. He's changed his house into 2 flats. The owner upstairs has said, okay, you can have the flat on a 100-year lease, but you can get permission from the council, but you need to get permission from me. These people, they forgot, they didn't tell, and then because they didn't get the permission from the landlord took the whole flat back. And they just, and it's on the news, you can Google it. We're talking like flats that are worth 300,000, and these people are living on the streets now. So that's what we always tell people. It's not just permission from the council. Sometimes, especially with new builds, you need to get permission from the developer.
Okay, and if we talk about leasehold properties, most of them you can't do anything there, isn't it?
That's right, without permission. You need to get permission from the landlord and from the council.
But most of the time, I think they will refuse it, isn't it? Because it's dangerous. I mean, if you will build, you can broken something or whatever.
So most landlords, good freeholders they're called, the people that own the whole entire thing, normally they say yes, as long as you give them all the documentation. So you need to have architectural drawings, building regulation drawings, engineers drawings. As long as you have everything, the landlord, but it depends on who the freeholder is. Normally, for example, 2 flats, usually the freeholder is usually both people, they own it together. But it could be a case, for example, so we own some flats and we're the freeholders. So the flat people can do whatever they want, but they have to ask us for permission. And most of the time we would say yes, because what they're doing is they're increasing the value of the property by doing works. So that's win-win for us. So, but again, it's majority of London cases, they don't like it. But again, you need to see who the freeholder is. Yeah.
And if it's, let's say, because I have one also customer, they have a viewing of one of the flat because they investor, and I would like to do Airbnb there, and like it's lots of space there, and they just asking me if we can like kitchen convert into the bedroom and make open plan, because living room was huge, and I say I think it wouldn't be possible in a big block of flats.
No, so with flats, because the way the permission was given for the flats, they would assign the bedroom must always be the bedroom, the lounge must be the lounge. Yes, you can swap rooms, not a problem, but you can't suddenly make a sitting room into 2 bedrooms. Yes, you could do that for yourself, but for example, when you go to sell it, you will never get the value, and you technically need planning permission for that. Yes, there are cases where people have done it without, they haven't been caught, so that's fine, but eventually everything always comes out. You can't, suddenly have a 4-bedroom flat when everybody else has a 2-bedroom flat. But again, it's not difficult. You can always apply. There are some old flats which, if you apply to the council to say, look, I've got a very big lounge, I want to make it into a sitting room, into another bedroom, they could say yes. So it's better to apply and get the permission. Though there are people, we've had many cases, it's called retrospective, where they come to us saying, look, I've changed it illegally. I had one call this morning where he's changed a house into a HMO without permission, and not only has he done that, he's got rid of the sitting room and the kitchen, and he's made them into bedrooms, so there's no kitchen left in the house. He's given all the bedrooms kitchens. The problem with this house, which is a shame, it's in Milton Keynes, he can never get planning permission for that, unfortunately. So he did this without asking anybody. He went ahead and built so many rooms. even if we applied, it would fail, and ultimately he will lose the tenants, and he will have to demolish and put everything back. So it's always worth always talk to people.
Yeah, apply first and then do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually lots of people asking about HMO, but I think it's really, really dangerous because there's lots of restrictions there. Because, like, say you will accommodate people in different rooms, so they have to be locked. There's the fire system. It's lots of things need to be met to have it, isn't it?
So with HMOs, we do a lot of HMO applications. London is saturated, but out of London, there's many places. HMOs are booming in areas where there's universities. They're very good money short run. The downside to HMOs is first that you have to depend on the area. If it's an Article 4 area, there's some areas around the UK where the councils have said no, we're not going to give HMOs without planning. We need planning permission. So most houses they can have 3 to 4 people living without planning, but majority of the UK now they're coming to the idea that no, we need permission. The issue with HMOs is the council don't like HMOs because one, you bring a lot of people into a house where they're not related, they're sharing. Issues with the bathroom, issues with the bins, who manages these bins. So most HMOs are usually managed by somebody, and then they'll go in, they'll clean. But again, yes, it's good for short term, good money. Long term, it's a lot of headache because tenants come and go. There's no long term tenancy. They'll be here for a year and then they'll go. So we always recommend flats over HMOs. Flats is a long term. Somebody will stay there. They'll have a family and it's easy to maintain. Everything is the tenants' concerns, such as the bins and cleaning. Whereas HMOs, you're responsible for the electric, for the gas. Everything is on the landlord. So you have to pay for everything. And it's good if you have somebody that manages it. But obviously, if you're managing it yourself, it's very risky because the amount of policies and legalities in terms of tenants, it's quite. That's why we always say, get an agent to look after, or get somebody who knows how to do this. Don't think just because you have one you can manage it. No, always give it to somebody who knows what they're doing, because there's too many laws and policies. You don't want to, breach something and get into trouble.
Yeah, because then you have to pay a lot. Yeah. Did you know anything about if people demolish something without permission and stuff? Is any fee for this or maybe some fine for this?
So demolition, it depends on what you're demolishing. So for example, you might have a house that has a porch. That's okay. It's your house, it's a porch, not a problem. But let's say you're in a conservation area. Conservation areas you're not allowed to demolish. You need permission. Listed buildings, you're not even allowed to demolish even if you got permission. But let's say you have an old extension on the side of your house. Yes, you can demolish it. You don't need permission, but you do need to let building regulation know. You have to contact building control because when you're demolishing, there's vibrations, there's noise, there's dust. A lot of things happen. So the council needs to know that something is happening. So you'll see if you look around some of these industrial estates, there's a lot of demolition works going on because most of the places now, like you said, people are working from home. There's no need for buildings, so they're demolishing them. But you need consent, not from planning, but you need it from building control. Yeah. Some buildings do need planning consent, but it depends, like I said, conservation or listed. Again, I would say seek advice. But majority of the residential stuff, you don't need demolition permission. You don't need it. Yeah.
Okay. So I think was really nice conversation between us. We give to the people lots of information which one they really need because they call me lots of time. They're asking me, so it's a good they have an answer from the professional. So for everyone, thank you for your time. If you finish watching this video, you're the star. We wait from you for likes, comments, and if you need proper architect, call us, or you have a link for our social media, just text us and we will give you right people for your extension, loft, or wherever you would like to build. Anything from you would like to add?
No, thanks for having me. And one advice I'd say is always talk to somebody.
And that's the question.
Yeah.
Okay, have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.